So our work was for the Macallan Distillery and Visitor Centre in the Scottish Highlands. We were working for the Edrington group that own the Macallan brand, and their development was really twofold. It was for whisky production to be increased by 50%, and a visitor centre to house the distillery, but also to showcase the production of the whisky and the high quality and craftsmanship that Macallan bring to that. And the design was very much to reflect the estate on which it was built as well. This is the grounds of the distillery. The brown roofs that you see to the right, and the sort of silver apparatus in the middle, that's the old distillery. And to the left of the picture, you can see 5 green domes, and that's the sort of new visitor centre and distillery. It overlooks the River Spey, and the design was to reflect the setting and the landscape of the wider estate. And from the start, the client was very focused on not just safeguarding biodiversity, but enhancing it and improving the biodiversity on their site. This was Arup's biodiversity and involvement. The task is down the right-hand side. The key thing for us really to get the scheme consented was the habitats regulations appraisal. The River Spey is the river you can see here. It's an SAC designated for otter, sea lamprey, Atlantic salmon and freshwater pearl mussels. And freshwater pearl mussels are critically endangered. They're at risk of extinction in some rivers, and as climate change really starts to bite, then the number of days of low flows in Scotland's rivers is increasing, and it's putting the populations at risk. The distillery was going to abstract, increased levels of water from the Spey, and also discharge any sort of wastewater from the distillery back into the river. So the volumes of that water and the infrastructure that was needed to do that was subject to a lot of stakeholder engagement and consultation. It was the sensitive issue at the start of the project. Construction was going to start, there was construction activity in various parts of the site, and so we had to check for protected and notable species throughout. And this was really the first time that we, as a team, that we got to play with motion detection cameras. So we had a lot of fun with this, as you'll see in the sort of coming clips. The badger leaving it set there. One of the things that we did was the client and the sort of project team really wanted lots of nature-based solutions. So runoff was captured by wildlife ponds and suds basins, and one of those was going to be placed right next to an otter shelter. So we videoed the otter in its couch and its shelter, and we got some really good footage of that. That was in close proximity to the Spey, and we weren't looking for anything else. We were just interested in otters, but we also got Marten, as you can see in this clip here. And in the same location, we also had red squirrel. So straight away, it was really making us think about the diversity of the terrestrial habitats and the species, as well as the sort of aquatic habitats. And the client was really engaged with this. They saw it as a hugely positive asset to them. All of this was happening within a few meters of their sort of new visitor centre. Just as an aside from the Macallan project for one moment, this and another project in the north of Scotland where we had wildcat made us think that camera trapping was quite a time-consuming process. So we've invested some Arup money in the automation of camera trap data sifting. We're at the end of phase 1. Phase 1 is focused on just identifying wildcat in sort of individual images. And phase 2, we're just about to start, where we're hoping to be able to advance this so that it can categorize what the species are doing and also start to identify multiple species in the footage that we capture. So this is another view of the visitor centre and the distillery, the 5 green domes. Very sympathetic design, dug into the hillside, so it looks really good from all angles. And the roof, wildflower meadow roof, and it was replacing an arable field that was in that location beforehand. So it actually ended up with great biodiversity than we started with. Very much a collaborative project. Rogers, Stirk, Harbour and partners with the architect. Sky Garden did the roof system. and Gillespie's did the landscape work. So a stunning and both inside and out. It really is inside of the visitor centre. More sort of nature-based solutions. The rainwater from the roof was harvested and collected in tanks and used for irrigation during dry periods. There was a whole system of swales across the site to sort of attenuate rainwater, and these all passed through suds and wildlife basins before discharging into the River Spey. So one of the largest wildflower roofs in Scotland, in Europe at the time, 14,000 square metres. And challenging to construct. There's some steep slopes and there's some pretty poor weather conditions there at certain times of year. Towards the end of our commission, we suggested to the client that they had such a fantastic site, they should really look to enhance it further. And the client and their staff and the visitors really appreciated what was going on site. It's still an active farm, it's still a visitor centre. But we really wanted to acknowledge the ecological benefits from restoring some of the natural systems and embedding biodiversity further into the site management activities. So we looked to restore river meanders, pond enhancements, remove invasive species, wildflower meadows, native species-rich hedgerow planting, and so on. Needless to say, the building won lots of awards. It was the RIAS Best Building in Scotland in 2018. It won the RICS Design Through Innovation Award, but we did our bit environmentally as well, winning an award for environmental best practice from sort of design through construction into operation of the site. So in summary, I think the key things for me was that biodiversity was embedded from the start. It was a key feature of the design, and everybody bought into that. And although biodiversity net gain isn't sort of mandatory in Scotland yet, that's what the client was trying to achieve. They were trying to bring about biological enhancements, and they really saw it as part of their brand and as part of the visitor centre experience. So just a fantastic experience to work on that particular project.